All right, we are here in Mobile, Alabama. We are recapping day one of the Senior Bowl. Going left to right on your screen, we have Robert Schmitz from Windy City Gridiron. We have Bobby Skinner from JM Football and Talk of Giants. We have the Football Grump from the Just Giants podcast, and myself is Justin Penik. Myself is Justin Penik from Talking Giants and JM Football. Fellas, we are here in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl. We sweated our asses off. I kept my jacket on the whole day. Shout out Joe Judge, and we are here.
Yeah, and we would start in order of the practice, national versus American, but I think we all had more fun watching the American practice where we want to start first. And I think we saw when you come to these, what you want to see. You want to see wide receivers versus press coverage, and we saw it even in team drills. I mean, they were even like individual warm-up drills. They were working press coverage, and I think we saw kind of best versus best in what is probably the most intriguing group. You know, you had guys like Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami in the corner group, and then the receiving group for the American team is like very exciting. Who was a guy like the matchup or a guy that you stood out to you, Robert?
Well, I know Rashee Rice was the name that everybody came into this watching, and I feel like he held his own, though he wasn't near as special in terms of these one-on-ones as Nathaniel Dell was, which was a name I did not come into the Senior Bowl expecting to pop. But as far as agility drills went and true one-on-ones, I mean, putting a guy who's going to be a pure slot receiver up against some of these big press man outside corners was just unfair, and especially on in-breaking routes, he sillied them. But I would tell you that on the corner side, Julius Brents was dominant. I mean, physically speaking, this is a guy with 33 and 7/8 inch arms, if memory serves, and he played like it, whooping people on the outside on in-breakers, picked off a pass on a relatively soft DBI call, and screamed into the sky afterwards. I mean, he was playing with passion, and it was fun to watch.
There was a corner, the last one-on-one of wide receiver cornerback drills, which are even if a corner wins the rep, like the wide receiver at some point will get some separate type of separation and get the ball. The last rep, over route, which is a route that is easy to get separation on, Tyreek Stevenson diagnoses it, flips his hips, and runs the route for the receiver. I think it was the TCU guy, Darius Davis. Just gets underneath it to where the quarterback doesn't even throw the ball. And it was his quarterback, from college, and I think it was Max Duggan that was there. And just totally ended the drill on we are here. The cornerbacks are here. And I was watching some of the other guys working press. Darius Rush out of South Carolina just looks big, 6'1", 33-inch arms, which you kind of have all the build for long press corners in the American team. Like he was really getting in front of guys and mirroring them. So the corners, as we kind of came in with all this hype for the wide receivers, and I'm coming out with some more hype for the cornerback position.
Absolutely. Credit to him. I mean, guys like Xavier Hutchinson had rough days out there. I'd say Jonathan Mingo did not handle the press relatively well. Both of these guys are probably going to play Z receiver in the NFL, so they won't have to deal with it as much. But getting stuck on the outside, they did not have a great day until they got to the team portion, where I do feel like, Bobby, things flipped a little bit. I mean, that was what made things so weird, right, Grump? Where suddenly then when they got to team portion, it was Mingo, it was X, it was some of the tight ends that were mostly hauling in all the catches. And a lot of the guys that had really shown out in wide receiver one-on-ones weren't really getting the ball,
Yeah, and what's interesting is that Xavier Hutchinson was somebody that I was going to zero in on for this practice. And in one-on-ones, he was struggling to get separation down the field, and that surprised me. But I don't, following the team portion, my idea of what really happened there was kind of more just these corners surprised me. They were a little bit better than I was expecting, and they were really good. It was not just Xavier Hutchinson disappointing. I wouldn't say that at all because he did show up in the team drills. But I will say that I was surprised that Dontavian Wicks looked so good in the individual drills. His speed and agility really, really showed up. And he was kind of embarrassing.
Where's he out of?
He's out of Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. And do you want to talk about the Princeton kid?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We've got to talk about Andre Yoshivas. Wearing number 9 out here. He's a favorite to potentially reset the 40-yard dash record. And he's as far as a guy with big size, big hands
so
goes.
It's crazy that you say that he's looking to maybe break the 40-yard dash record. He was a track star at Princeton.
Right.
He's 6'3". This is like a wide receiver that's built in a lab, getting Christian Watson athletic profile comparisons, and he had a pretty good day one on being on that track of being a Christian Watson type
It's funny
guy.
you mentioned track. He's a track star, and I'm really interested to see how he evolves as a receiver because it feels to me like he hasn't quite figured out how to get to 90% of his speed. He's got this major, major speed that we haven't quite seen yet because whether it's an over route or a slant, he's not had the chance to really burst like we know he can. And I'm curious to see if he can add that. He probably's not going to add it over 3 days of practice. But as far as a raw ball of clay looks, he looked like he belonged. And that's what you can ask, what you want to see out of an Ivy Leaguer.
Yeah, just needs more reps working on his releases because at Princeton, I mean, I didn't watch a ton of film at Princeton,
Right.
but the competition is not great. And you saw, again, even on individual drills where it's like they were working some press stuff and he was getting straight bullied on the first second and a half. And especially down here where it's not your quarterback. If you're not open that first second and a half, that quarterback's going to move off of you, and you didn't see much action from him. So what is our takeaway of Rashee Rice day one? Because he is the big name coming into this.
I thought that he looked like he belonged. Yeah, I thought he looked fine. I expected him to dominate, and he didn't. And maybe that's why I kind of felt like, maybe. But there were a lot of other wide receivers that were good in this group, the American group too, so the conversation shifted away, but I still think that he had a pretty good day, Rashee Rice. Just individual drills just didn't really highlight him.
It feels like he ended on an exclamation point. That last one-on-one, I know the quarterback missed him on it, but he separated off the line. He gave a nice look for the ball as if it was going to come over his head and then broke inside on a slant and dummied his corner, which is saying something because Darius Rush had himself a pretty good day and generated, I'd say, about like 2.5 yards of separation. But again, the quarterback missed him. He's somebody that I think we're going to be watching for more from day two because, I mean, we're talking about a guy with a potential round one profile. We kind of need to see a little bit more than what we're seeing right now, but there's plenty of days in the Senior Bowl.
So quick, who do you guys think has the advantage kind of going forward in the CB, wide receiver kind of battle? Do you think, the DBs had a really good day one, which was kind of a little bit unexpected just because of the talent pool that's here with the wide receivers? Who do you kind of think has the advantage heading into day two? Because I think that has to kind of be part of the evaluation process. These guys are going to start to get more familiar through these 3 days. Do you think anybody, or does it not matter? Are we going rock and roll day two?
Here's what's interesting is that I thought the corners had a good day. Almost every individual drill was flagged. Yeah. Right? I mean, there was 7 plays in a row where there was a DPI flag. I don't necessarily agree with all of them. That's sort of irrelevant, but as a player, I don't know if the defensive backs come into day two feeling confident after a good day one or if they're getting a whooping for all those flags. So I think that might maybe have an effect on it.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, you've got a corner out there like Rezjon Wright from Oregon State who looked really nice, but way too handsy on some of his reps. And it's easier to coach it out of a guy like that. But at the same time, you can't get flagged for DPI 3-4 times in the NFL and expect
They'll
to
just
succeed.
keep throwing at you.
Nah, he's throwing hands. That's for sure.
Yeah.
On the trenches for the American team, a guy coming in that I liked out of South Carolina was Zach Pickens. Zach with 2 C's. He gets off the ball quick and he has good hand usage. He was making work of the interior guys, even guys like Osiris Torrance, who I thought had a solid day. John Michael Schmitz, I really liked him out of Minnesota. The center, he's a true center, older guy. He was using his hands well, worked the hop step in some one-on-ones, but even Pickens got him. And then on the team drills, surprisingly, usually the O-line is pretty rough in team drills and can kind of wreck the drill. The O-line was holding up, except for Zach Pickens was getting some interior pressure in there. And I think if we had some of the quarterbacks of past years, we'd be seeing a lot more big plays in those team drills, but the quarterback play seems to be down a little bit this year. So I really liked him. Me and Justin were watching Emil Ikior out of Alabama, who played guard for them. Moves really well, but he's 6'2". I love that even though they have true centers, like they have, John Michael Schmitz, they bumped him in the center.
Yeah.
And I think that's where his spot is going to be because he's not the strongest guy in the world, but he knows how to use leverage and he's athletic enough. I'm really excited to see him at center. And we're Giants centered, where it's that's kind of what the Giants need right now at center. Is they kind of have some bigger guys who can throw their weight around a little bit, but they kind of need to get some athleticism and a guy who knows how to use his hands and leverage.
And you hear a lot of front offices now talk about the positional versatility on being able to play guard, being able to play center. If you're a guard, can you also play tackle? Can you bump out there too? And Emil certainly seems to have that versatility.
Darnell Wright, who was someone I was very interested to watch, the right tackle out of Tennessee, who has really good film, against Will Anderson out of Alabama, Ojolari out of LSU. He did really well. I thought his best reps were a guy against Ali Gay out of LSU, who I'm not a big fan of. But he just has that anchor where it's he gets his hands on you, and even though he may not have the fastest feet, he can win that rep there. So that's what I saw in the trenches on the American side. Do we want to move to the national side? You guys got any last notes?
Yeah. Anything else?
On the national side, we'll start with the trenches. DeJuan Jones. the rare guy whose college listing has him at a shorter and less weight than what he actually is. Comes in at 6'9", 375 pounds out of Ohio State. He dominated guys, right? And again, it's like you wanted to see that in those one-on-one drills where it's for a guy like him who has some footwork issues, like, okay, this guy can get abused here. He held his own, and even his bad reps weren't horrible. And there was multiple times he was finishing guys on the dirt, including like the first play of the day against Andre Carter out of Army. Andre Carter was a guy who was going to this week, for more than most players, this week was going to tell me the story on Andre Carter. Because he's a fun watch at Army. Like, he at 6'6", he fires off the line of scrimmage. He works all types of pass rush moves. But unless he adds weight, he's not going to be able to hang in the run in the NFL. And if he adds weight, to how much explosion off the line of scrimmage does he lose? I think for a guy like him, who I saw even round one grades on him earlier in the process, I think he's really suffered on day one. And I think it's going to continue because he really, really struggled setting an edge in those run drills.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything that you guys had on the O-line, D-line before I power through my notes?
I wish we could, but honestly, practice was so helter-skelter on the national side that
it was
trouble enough.
Over.
It was trouble enough just following the receivers as was.
Yeah.
I saw a little bit of Cody Mock, who was playing all over the line.
North
I saw
Dakota
a little
State
bit of tackle, a little bit of guard, super athletic, still trying to figure out how to use his hands well, which, I mean, we're talking about an FCS guy, but
I think he ends up at guard in the NFL.
wouldn't surprise me.
He's got a pretty nice base, pretty nice anchor. I saw in pass protection. There's a very limited amount that I did see of him.
The guy I really loved watching, especially in team drills, was Maryland tackle Jalen Duncan. His feet are already quick, but he stays square through the block. Like, he just plays with patience, and this is like a heart rushing atmosphere. Like, your stock can rise or drop. I thought he just played in control, especially in team drills, and obviously in one-on-ones did well too. Other guys on the trenches. Keon White out of Georgia Tech, who's a guy I like. They actually were working him on the inside. Obviously, I think his home in the NFL is in the edge, but I think they were like, hey, you got some stuff to work on. He was doing well in there. KJ Henry out of Clemson had some really good plays, but my issue with him is that he almost solely wins by working laterally outside in, and I want to see how can you hold up on the edge. Can you get around the corner? So I'd like to see maybe the coaches beat that into him over the next day. Hey, we know you can work laterally. We know you can work outside in. That stuff doesn't – you're not going to have that freedom in the NFL, especially for a guy who's not going to be a top of the draft guy. So I'd like to see more out of that from him. And then my last one on the trench is Isaiah Foskey. He worked some stutter. He had I forget the Michigan tackle. I forget his name.
Ryan Hayes.
Put him on his ass on one play. He looked good for a guy who I think people have a wide range of opinion on.
Yeah. I have a Keanu Benton out of
Wisconsin.
Out of Wisconsin. He had just the nicest swim move of the day, just the most efficient. Not even I'm just gonna bull rush you. But he had a beautiful swim move. And he had some nice moments in some 1v1 drills. I'm gonna be looking out for him in the next 2 days.
Yeah, that rep you're talking about. I mean, he just brings his hands with power, and then immediately bringing that right hand, attacking the shoulder of the guard, and then it was a very clean and easy win for him.
Yeah,
not quite trenches, but tight end Davis Allen out of Clemson had he was somebody that we already knew was a good blocker. He smacked the piss out of somebody today. I want to continue seeing stuff like that, but I'd like to see him a little bit more in the passing game. I am trying to keep my eyes on tight ends. They didn't really flash today.
What do you think of Payne Durham out of Purdue?
I really like Payne, but specifically he's more your Y tight end, your blocking tight end. I thought he looked like he brought the pain, pun intended. But his feet are a lot better than you'd expect of a guy who's 260 pounds, right? You're thinking that guy's going to lumber, he's going to be really slow in and out of his breaks, but he sinks his hip, he pops his feet, and he comes in and out of little digs and sticks so that he's not going to try to take you 30 yards for a touchdown, right? But he will work to get open underneath so that he can pick up 7-8 yards and potentially move the chains.
Yeah, he'll take a pile with him too.
We were watching him yesterday, and it kind of reminded me a little bit. I think Jake Ferguson probably was a little bit better all-around player than him last year out of Wisconsin, who just came in here, wasn't going to blow you away with his speed profile, but can block and can do everything. Like you said, get the underneath stuff. And he's someone who found himself a very serious role for the Dallas Cowboys as tight end too. And I think the more and more I get into this NFL, it's blocking almost becomes a prerequisite for my tight ends unless you are the best of the best athletes, and that's going to get him drafted and have a career in the NFL if you just have that prerequisite, because there's always going to be a need, even if you are a team that employs the Evan Ingrams, the faster receivers who you move around. You need those guys on your roster no matter what you're trying to do on offense.
Absolutely. If anything, I thought it was actually pretty surprising how well he took his game from Purdue to here at the Senior Bowl, where you're talking about better linebackers, better edge players, better players overall, and he was still delivering blocks with the same ferocity. Not like he's pancaking anybody, right? But locking up with his hands, he's really strong with his hands. 87's a name to watch, and we didn't talk about any of the other tight end group, but honestly, I don't know about you, Grump, I didn't get a look at most of them because they were on the other side of the field the whole time.
Right.
For the American group?
For the American group that we skipped over those tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot more names there, the Will Mallory's of the world. I only really saw the team drill portions. They kind of, I'll say this, Cameron Latu, he looked very good. He was consistently open. He's very smooth catching the ball, immediately getting upfield. Traditional tight end routes, though. I mean, he's not running too many corners or posts or anything like that. But he looked smooth. He looked like he functioned well. I didn't really catch his blocking reps, though.
Who was the wide receiver that popped out for you guys in the national team? And if you want the answer to that question, you can look at all of our Twitters. I think we all tweeted about him within the same 5 minutes.
Probably.
Are you talking about Puka or are you talking about Jaden Reed?
Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
What'd you see out of him, the BYU wide receiver?
Fun name.
He's big, he's tall, and he's got speed to his game. I mean, he's got real deep speed. This is a guy who'll go for 150 yards in random weeks in college football, and it's no accident. He got hurt a little bit in 2022, but he has his quarterback out there, so he looks really, really comfortable with, who is this? Is it Hall throwing him the ball?
Max Hall, right? Or Jaron Hall?
Jaron Hall. And so he had a really nice rep in the team portion in cover 3. I didn't think he stood out in one-on-ones as much as Michigan State's Jaden Reed, and I think Michael Wilson's another interesting mover at wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, explosive guy that just needs a receiver coach to come in and help him calm down a little bit so that he can keep that explosive movement without losing speed. But Puka Nacua stood out in terms of just a productive guy. It wasn't a matter of necessarily how he did it. It was what he did, consistently hauling the ball in at one point on his butt when he fell over and caught it anyways.
Yeah, so the other thing, you mentioned that he is working with his quarterback at times. Overall, the quarterback play on the national side is a lot worse. So he is working with some poor throws as well. So it's going to be tough to kind of evaluate him going through this, because I came to this thinking BYU is just kind of like that long shot school where they just throw deep balls and he kind of can just run down the field and catch it. And this is not that.
Right.
But he looked like he belonged today. He had nice, sharp cuts to his routes. I thought he looked pretty good in individual drills. But again, the passes were not that great. So I thought he won some reps and didn't catch passes at times.
Yeah, we saw two different play styles defensively from the American, the national team. And, from Puka, you saw him identify the zone, get his leverage, and then break out on a couple plays, sit on it. I think he had 2-3 catches in a row that he made. You mentioned Jaden Reed, who's a guy I really like. I don't know why he's not talked about more. He's been very productive at Michigan State. I get more productive his junior year than his senior year. He registered in at the top speed for that team, and I think he's just a guy who is going to get overlooked for some reason, but is going to put up 600-700 yards every single season.
I mean, the words with him are foot frequency. The way that he's able to move and the steps he's able to take are just faster than some people or than what the guys across from him can do. And look, I'm not super high on any of the corners that are on the national side. Caillou Blue Kelly is somebody that probably could hang around with the guys on the American side, but it's definitely a little bit more of a receiver showcase on national because their corner talent isn't quite the same. I mean, guys like Julius Branch, the guys we already talked about, go back and listen to the rest of the show, they'll disrupt any route. But guys like Jalen, or a lot of the receivers we've already mentioned, they're just running free on a lot of these.
Yeah.
Well, I think that Caillou Blue Kelly is probably good enough to hang, but like you said with the defensive play styles, he's not really going to hit receivers the whole way down the route. And like I said, there were a lot of DPI flags on the American team, so I'm not really sure how often that's really going to translate to the NFL level. But Caillou Blue Kelly is not at all handsy, but he is a sticky man corner. So I think that he's pretty good. I thought he had a pretty good day, but it's just so Jekyll and Hyde looking at these teams and the talent disparity specifically at wide receiver corner.
I think that's what happened when you have the SEC all on one team.
Yeah, I feel like every year it's just going to be, we're looking forward to that second practice with the American squad. Is there what I kind of want to do now to kind of maybe finish this off and wrap it up. Did we talk about the trenches of the national team?
We did. We started there, right?
Yeah, with DeJuan Jones.
So what I kind of want to do is just kind of like a little bit of a speed dating, like just maybe to kind of wrap up. Any players that you have kind of written down, that you have circled, that maybe you want to talk about, give me a pitch on their day, why you're looking forward to watching them. Grump, we'll start with you. Anybody that we haven't talked about that you want us to keep an eye out for?
I'm just going to throw the first name on the list here that we didn't talk about is Tajay Spears from Tulane. Running back, serious speed. Wow. I don't really know how that's going to translate to a game or NFL level, but of course Tulane, that's not really film that we're going to look at and be like, oh, this is NFL play right here. But he really was sprinting through team drills. I mean, there would be a pile, and then one guy would shoot out the back like a rocket, and it was him. I'm interested to see his role in the passing game, whether that's blocking or catching passes, running routes, and how he goes forward.
Two guys that I didn't get a great live look at that I'm going to be really keying on tomorrow is Ole Miss Tavius Robinson on the edge, and then Missouri edge Isaiah McGuire, who I really like coming in. And for some reason, I just wasn't able to get great live looks on those guys. Those are two guys where I'm going to be keying in on them tomorrow.
I got way too good of a look at the receivers, and in so doing, barely got to take a look at the safeties. But Illinois' Sidney Brown, 30 on the national side, and then 27 Christopher Smith on the American side, both made plays in the team drill portion. Look, the Senior Bowl is just not a great place to see a safety showcase because there's not a ton of team drills that go on. But both of these guys made plays in limited opportunities. Brown especially looks physical at the point of attack and sticky in coverage. They're guys that I want to get a better look at as the week goes on, if it's possible.
Two guys for me. Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse looked very fun. He also has like a ton of family members in the crowd, which is also pretty fun to see. And then also
Was that the tackle?
Yes, that is the tackle. I thought he had a pretty good day on the American squad too, which is obviously a little bit tougher, better competition like we talked about. And Chris Rodriguez Jr. from Kentucky, he's a running back. He was like catching everything. I don't know how good of a running back he is.
He's a bigger back too.
He was catching everything. Yeah, he's listed at 224, 5'11", 224. That is a pretty bigger back, but he was catching everything that was kind of coming at him. So those are two guys that I saw we didn't get a chance to talk about. Anything else, Phils? Any kind of final thoughts?
We mentioned the side of Chris Rodriguez, that just on the national side, just even coming out before practice, it's Roshan Johnson and then all the other backs down here, just size-wise. So, and I saw some good stuff out of him too.
Awesome.
So, but I think we're all set.
All set. All right, that is your Day 1 Senior Bowl recap. We will see you tomorrow for a Day 2 recap, and then we're also going to have some live streams on the JM Football channel, Talking Giants channel, if you want some more Q&A stuff, some more informal stuff. But we'll see you tomorrow, Day 2, Senior Bowl, Mobile, Alabama. Stay tuned. Love you.